Continuamos e agora vamos olhar para o impacto da tecnologia nas nossas vidas e também para o que é que nos reserva, afinal, o futuro. A disrupção traz com ela muitos desafios, mas traz também muitas oportunidades. Como é que uma das cervejas mais vendidas em todo o mundo, a japonesa Asahi, está a lidar com esta mudança? É o que nos vai explicar Kelly Barnes, now live from Australia. Kelly, good evening. Welcome to our meeting.
Good evening. Thank you. Thank you for having me. And I'm extremely humbled to be asked to come and chat to you guys about my perspective on the era of disruption. Firstly, by way of introduction, yes, I am Kelly Barnes, but more importantly, I'm passionate about the future and what tech has in store for us as it becomes the connective tissue in everything that we do. I'm absolutely obsessed between technology, culture, and consumers. And today, you're going to get a view from a girl from down under. As good morning to you all, it's evening and I'm ending my day, and I think that this actually illustrates the global connection that we have and what technology unlocks for us. I hope to get you thinking consumer back by the end of our 20 minutes together. I hope to challenge your definition of the industry that you work in and its purpose. And I hope to give you some threads to weave through the next couple of days, which look absolutely phenomenal, that you're going to be spending together. I hope to light a fire in you in regards to your curiosity about culture and how it is shaping technology's agenda. And I hope to provoke what may be how we might live into the future and flip it on its head. So let's get started. So do you often think that you wake up in the world and the world has changed and we don't question why? We just keep on living. So I've got a couple of questions for you. How many of you on this conference have replaced mundane tasks with generative AI to get the grunt work done for you? How many of you love having your digital twin so you can try on that lipstick, or on your production line be able to test and learn? How many of you post-COVID have fundamentally changed your way you work? Hello, welcome to my living room, a perfect example. And now be honest with this when you think about it. How many of you are trying to police screen time for your children because they're spending too much time on screens? AI was coined in 1960, but it wasn't until 2022 in the November that the world changed forever with ChatGPT. Have you asked yourself, or are you curious about what the next technological-led consumer disruption will be? Have you challenged yourself to move away from policing screen time with your kids? I know this one's hard. I've got 2 young kids of my own. And move to actually policing passive time versus allowing them to be collaborative. There's nothing better than watching a Gen Alpha actually collaborate and problem solve through the gaming world. And have you looked at your business to see where digital twins will unlock your competitive advantage? The world is changing daily and technology is leading this disruption, and boy, is it exciting. But now, we do question if or when it will happen. Now, this is where I have to laugh. Have you sat in a dinner party or in the breakout that you're about to have? And have you hypothesized on the future of the world with your friends or colleagues? How many times could you play corporate bingo with "that won't happen, full stop," or "it won't happen in my lifetime," or "maybe my kids will see this"? Now, I want you all to close your eyes. Now, I can't see you, so I'm trusting you on this one. But imagine where I've created my own boyfriend. We have a holiday to the moon, booked to stay in that awesome new Hilton that has just opened up. But before I go, I actually have to check in with my girlfriend in Paris, but the kids are screaming and actually I have to quickly talk to the plants. Have I gone mad? I'll leave this up to you to decide. The interesting thing is that all of these tech disruptions are in the process of being innovated right now, and the race is on to find that consumer pain point and hook and change the way we live. We may just wake up in the world and this might happen. We live in amazing times. I think it's one of the best times to be alive right at the moment, where problems are solved using empathy. Diversity is at the top of the agenda. We've got agile teams. We lean into collective intelligence and high problem solving to crack the hardest problems and start the hardest conversations to unlock the potential of our future. Technology's role has never been more important. If I think about it, and I like to coin it as it's the vehicle for consumer change. And never before has it been intertwined so deeply into how we live. If I think about technology innovators, the startups that are occurring, and look, for the participation of this conference, I think you're going to know this way better than me. But from, crypto, blockchain, quantum computing, Neuralink, mobility, the list goes on, of all the wonderful technology that is being created to disrupt how we live. But for consumers, the rate of change is exponential, and it's fueled by fast-moving culture. Now, I want you to think back, I think it's a couple of years, when Black Lives Matters actually hit. Through the zeitgeist, it was predicted that it would move at exponential pace, in which it did, but it slowed down really quickly and is predicted now to actually be less relevant as we move forward. So what I'm going to part with you is what we're seeing in culture and the signals that are coming out through culture in terms of consumers to get you thinking of potentially how we actually talk to consumers through technology and disruptive technology. We can see signals emerging that are predicted to gain strength in the coming years. Consumers are desiring more sensorial experiences, as well as an unapologetic pursuit of what brings enjoyment and happiness. People really want to actually go after that. They want to feel part of something bigger than themselves and will demand, not ask, demand companies to take action to support them in these endeavours. There's increasing urgency around climate change that we all know about post the Paris Agreement and sustainability solutions, but consumers are starting to realise that companies are not perfect and they want to push towards that, but they want us to be responsible in our practices. They're signalling they want to be involved more in brand-led decision-making and ideation, moving away from being limited to only elite and influencers. They don't want companies making decisions on their behalf and it only being for the few versus for the many. Democratizing access will therefore create, and therefore I buy and drive consumer intent, with a real desire to connect at a deeper wisdom level, a really pulled back to ancient wisdom level, coupled with the desire to break norms. And what do I mean by that? How many of you, when you go back into your environments, look to consumers and see, are they toppling norms? Are they looking at doing things that previously in culture may not be accepted? Play and escapism amidst their day-to-day stresses is becoming increasingly important, and interactive entertainment, to my point before, interactive to collaborate, to participate versus actually just stream services, is where consumers will look for entertainment and enjoyment. And to my earlier point, robotics and automation will move from addictive to predictive and streamline our lives with personal solutions, increasing our discretionary time to be more focused on purpose-led activity. We are entering a period of amazing opportunity where purpose comes to the forefront, and so does creativity. But I shouldn't say but I will say but there is a couple of other things that are pretty fundamentally happening from a generational event perspective that are set to occur over the next 10 years. Baby boomers, the generation of people born between 1944 and 1964, expected to transfer now in the readings. There is a figure in the US of 73 trillion, 30 trillion in wealth. But to me, that's a lot of money to younger generations over the next many years coming forward. This jaw-dropping amount is known by financial analysts, etc., as the great wealth transfer. But I want you all to sit there and think about, what will the recipients do with this wealth? So I'm guessing also 75% of you will be working for a different company in the next period of time. Well, I'm not guessing that. McKinsey's study has actually found that the average life of companies is actually predicted to go down to, by 2030, to less than 10 years. And of the top 500 companies, 75% of them will not be in existence. Wow. And I can't talk about generations without talking about Gen Z, but to me, Gen Alpha. There is going to be a generational power shift that will occur over the next 10 to 20 years, where the discretionary wallet will come into control of the digital era. Gen A and Gen Z are moving seamlessly across borders. Generation Alpha, they don't mind to be tracked thanks to Snap. And Gen Z are fully global generation connected through digital devices. They have and are open to the idea of completely living in the virtual world. Do you know 2.8 million Gen Alphas are born globally each week? 65% of Gen Alphas will work in jobs that don't exist today, and less than half will go to university. And between 66% and 70% will demand companies to make a positive difference in the world. These statistics are scary, but what does this mean for how we fabric society and our economy and lean into technology to enable the next wave of disruptive innovation? The final point is there will be people everywhere. There will be about 1 billion more of us, and we will live longer. So we're suspected to reach 8.5 billion people by 2030, and 2/3 of us will live in the cities. This was quoted by Andreas Winston from MIT Sloan. But what actually occurs when we have more people living longer in high density, how we live will change. So how do we lean into these as corporations? It is my point of view that companies that succeed in this era are future consumer pain point defined and have a culture to disrupt themselves often. They are purpose-led. They do not actually fix and leave the purpose of their company, and they continue to look to culture to define what business they are in. I would challenge you all to think that you can no longer look at your industry sector as the defining sector. We need to look at future consumer prediction of how people will live and then how technology will lean into this, and then the purpose of the business that we are in. So how do we disrupt this with today's thinking? It's quite funny because I was thinking of an example when I was leaning into giving this chat, and I was like, I would love to have hologrammed in here so I wasn't talking to my PowerPoint slide and I could actually interact with the company that we have on this conference. But then if I was to ask a consumer, would you like to hologram into a meeting? I'm sure they're going to actually scratch their head and say, well, I don't know. So when we think about today and ask consumers what is desirable in their known state that they can understand, we may miss the opportunity and an innovation could fail, which would be a real shame. So we don't. This is a lovely quote that I like. That is, in order to change an existing paradigm, you do not struggle to try to change the problematic model. You create a new model and make the old one obsolete. The problem with today's thinking, it is today. And disruptive innovation is talking about tomorrow's consumer. We don't want to kill an idea just because consumers don't understand it. It's our job to actually understand what pain points that they have. We need to get really good to know what is the pain point, what are we trying to solve, how does it interact with fast-moving culture, and then can we technically create it, can we disrupt, and can we make it viable? I'd like you all to think about how you actually lean in your innovation teams around desirability, feasibility, and viability, and could you potentially think about that differently? So let's look at an example. It's a point of view of the future home. So a home meets the same basic needs as a cave did 10,000 years ago. A safe place, protected from the elements and danger. It provides privacy, a place to sleep, eat, rest, and home all the things you love. It's a place of entertainment. And in some case, if you walked into my home, it's a place where I have kids running around all the time. And trying to parent that whilst work and actually talk across the other side of the globe is sometimes an interesting challenge. But technology hasn't changed these needs significantly. It's just changed the way in which they are met. Now, did you all know that it is predicted by 2030 that 70% of all occasions are set to occur in our homes? That's a whopping 70%. So what is the drivers of the future home? Let's take a look at EMO. So starting off with, E is for everything. It's smart, it's connected, it's automated, and it's purpose-led. From toilets that can read a lot more about you than a current toilet can do today, mirror scans that enable you to understand what your body is doing and how is it interacting and the services that you may need, to actually knowing if you've taken your prescription medicine. Is the home now the purchasing agent? M is for manifested. Fancy a 3D printed Dorito, a drink that just happens to appear. My food cooked because it senses I'm hungry. I'm in the shower and my shampoo is being manifested. Manufacturing will be recoined to manifestation, and it is created in the home in a decentralized way. What does this mean to goods and product companies? Will we shop as we do today? O is for optimized, space and format. And it's optimized in a way that, depending on the need state, we can define it. Can you imagine a house where walls move to create ideal spaces? Delivery pads are set for air mobility, to mirrors that completely, as I said before, do body scans that call services that required without you thinking, to optimal nutrition by responsible green gardening, and the list goes on and on. What would we think when the home optimizes it for you? And finally, H is for habitual. Habitual practices are structured, curated, and always there. The future home will be filled with robotics, completing these ritual tasks, to knowing when dinner needs to be cooked, to what I need to be maintained, my health, to how I maximize my sleep by creating spaces for work, play, and rest. Again, will we ever need or want to leave? So, emo. Is the home disrupted by tech? I challenge you to go and look into your homes. Are you seeing essence of this appearing as the race for innovation and startup continues to wake up and we live in a different world? How would you solve how your businesses meet these needs that is predicted by future consumers and what they will desire? If consumers are set, let's recap this for a second, to spend 70% of their time in their homes, then what does this mean? The race is on right now to own the in-home experience. How would you solve how your business engages with consumers in the place where they're at, not where you would like them to be? So before I conclude and pass back, I want to actually just pause for a second and say, danger ahead. And there's been a number of examples, and I think you could all, if you think about your companies, you'd be able to sit there and go, oh, there has been a couple of times where this has occurred, where as technologists, there's cool, funky tech, and we go after it. And I've seen it in the industries that I've worked, where they put it out into consumers and they're like, this is amazing. Of course, consumers want to know exactly to the nth degree of where this is sourced. Blockchain is this example. But guess what? It did not actually move the dial commercially. It did not actually step up in terms of consumers' desire to continue to engage. So my question for you guys, as you actually go through, we can have an F1 car, or we can have the car that the consumer would like to drive. The consumer owns the change. They need to desire it, they need to want it, and then technology will come to the party. If we start with technology, we may just miss the true pain point. So it's a challenge for you all. Let's start with culture, with consumers and prediction, and then how can technology disrupt? This will give us a fighting chance to actually change the world in which we live. A disruptive mindset keeps us connected to the future and our consumers, enables us to be elastic and invites change with the hope that maybe, just maybe, will always be relevant. So we wake up in the world and the world has changed, and maybe, just maybe, we all had a part to play with it. I thank you for your time and listening to me. I hope that I've imparted some wisdom And I'm more than happy to ever talk about how culture, consumers, and technology come together because I'm extremely passionate by it. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Kelly. Kelly Barnes, live from Australia. E, como nos disse a Kelly agora mesmo, a mudança está a acontecer e nós temos todos de preparar-nos para ela, nós todos e até enquanto consumidores e, essencialmente, também as empresas. Tudo acontece a uma velocidade estonteante e é crucial que as empresas já estejam, neste momento, a fazer esse processo de adaptação. E agora, João, a pergunta é, será que em economia tudo é disrupção?